I'll call this meeting of the McHenry County Zoning Board of Appeals to order. The purpose for our hearing today is application 2024-055. The applicant is Eduardo and Claudia. How do you pronounce your last name?
Olaga.
Olaga?
Olaga, yes.
Olaga. The address is 15712 Nelson Road, Woodstock. This is a request for an A1 agricultural district to A1 agricultural district with a conditional use permit for food processing with animal slaughter. The PIN number associated with this petition is 0723176003. And this property is an 8.28 acre parcel located on the north side of Nelson Road, about 760 feet west of Murray Road in Heartland Township. At this time, I'll have the members of the Zoning Board of Appeals introduce themselves and the township in which they reside, starting on my left.
Robert Cozen, Algonquin Township.
Mary Donner, Greenwood Township.
Charlie Eldridge, Richmond Township.
I'm Linnea Kustra in Alden Township.
Vicki Gardner, Nunda Township.
Kurt Schnabel, Riley Township.
Bill Kernick, Grafton Township.
This petition has been reviewed and the following items have been received prior to today's scheduled hearing. The publisher's certificate of publication from a newspaper is dated January 7, 2025, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. The affidavit of posting was signed and the date posted was January 14, 2025. The affidavit of mailing was signed and the date mailed was December 31, 2024. All meeting ordinance requirements. The survey has been checked against the petition, legal notice, and publication in the newspaper, and all three match. The filing fees have been paid. The endangered species consultation was not required for this petition. And finally, the McHenry County Soil and Water Conservation District report has been received. This would be NRI number L240804636. Now, how the hearing works for any of you who have never been to a zoning hearing before, and I assume that's probably many of you, I just want to tell you kind of how this works today. So the petitioner will present their case to the board, why they feel like this conditional use should be granted. They'll be giving testimony. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. It is being recorded, so the rules of evidence apply, and so they will be presenting their evidence as to why this should be granted. After they have given their testimony, they will be asked questions by the board, the Zoning Board of Appeals members, and then staff will have their opportunity to ask questions. After that, members of the public will each have an opportunity, if you'd like to ask questions, must be regarding their testimony. It can't be outside the bounds of what they testified to, what they have presented here today. You will each have 3 minutes. I will time you with my phone. You have up to 3 minutes to give your ask questions. And I would ask that, if somebody has already asked a question, ask a new question. If you run out of time, someone else will have to ask your question because we are really strict on limiting this to 3 minutes. This is not a rally. You can't be talking. It's like similar to a court. Only one person can be talking at a time, so it's recorded. There's no clapping or cheering for somebody. This is a hearing. So after your questions have been asked, then we will take testimony from the staff, their report on this application. And then after that, if you have a comment about this petition, then you will have another opportunity. You will have your 3 minutes to say why you support this or why you don't support this petition. So the first opportunity is only questions, no comments. Finally, you'll be able to say your comments before the end of the hearing. Then the petitioner will give their closing statement, and then if there's time today, we'll move on to a voting meeting. So at this time, anybody who thinks they might ask a question or give a comment, you will all have to be sworn in. So at this time, I would ask you if you're going to ask a question or speak at all to raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, so at this point, then we'll turn it over to the petitioner and their attorney. Please introduce yourself and go ahead with your,
From right here is acceptable?
you're just fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members, and Anna, thank you very much for having us. My name is Dave Gillespie. I'm an architect with Gillespie Design Group. With me this afternoon is Eduardo Olage and his wife Claudia Olage, the owners of Olage Farms, and Mr. Vince Incopero, attorney. And I am thrilled that everybody made the time to show up today because people need to know what's going on in their community. What we have here is an establishment that was founded in 1952. It is a fixture of McHenry County, the Jones Packing Company. It was on the outside of Harvard, not in Harvard, but way out on the boundary of Harvard. 1952, this business has been there for over 70 years. It was a food processing facility, including the slaughter of animals. Over the decades, this facility had been added onto over and over again. It got to be a fairly big facility. It served the local community. It brought them steaks, chops, ribs, everything. It was a wonderful place for the local community to get their meats. In 2019, Olage Farms bought the facility and started operating there. Unfortunately, in 2023, there was a catastrophic fire that completely destroyed the buildings. It was tragic, it was extremely unfortunate, and it was beyond anybody's blame. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the business and the growth of that specific area, which used to be outside Harvard, we can no longer rebuild the slaughterhouse, the food processing plant at that location, which was the preference, which was something that we just assumed we would be able to do since it had been there for 70 some years. Therefore, we looked around, but we found that the best and the most appropriate place that is in A1 agricultural zoning, more than 3 times the size of the current site, is this site on Nelson Road that we're looking at today. And we are seeking a conditional use to build a food processing facility on this property, 15712 Nelson Road, with the slaughter of animals. Now, I just want to tell you, Eduardo Olage grew up in Crystal Lake. He's a graduate of Crystal Lake South High School. His wife, Claudia, grew up in McHenry, is a graduate of McHenry West High School. Both attended McHenry County College. This, to me, looks like the American success story because they got married, they decided to grow a business in McHenry County to serve residents of McHenry County, both inside and outside McHenry County. And right now, they're being tested for their resiliency. This is not only a legacy business that became an icon of McHenry County. You can see it if you look it up on you can look it up on the internet and see what impact Jones Meatpacking had on this community. But this is also a test of resiliency, not just for Olage Farms to see if they can rebound from this tragic fire, but see if this community can come in full support of a business that's been there for 70 some years. A community that the Olages have given so much to in the way of supporting local communities, 4-H clubs, McHenry County Fair, many community organizations, schools, churches, festivals, both financially and, I might say, with very delicious steak. Okay. Okay, so Olage Farms, a fixture in community, what we're doing here is, in addition to finding an appropriate and good location for unique use, we also want to make sure that it's appropriate in your eyes. And we want to do so by clearing up what we commonly see as common objections to this use. Just briefly, Gillespie Design Group, we the vast majority of our work is food production facilities. I've probably worked on about a dozen slaughterhouses, big, small, mainly bigger than this, mostly, almost entirely USDA regulated. And what I see here is a group of very concerned people, which I see universally across the board wherever we do work. The first concern usually, and this is in no particular order, but I'm gonna just place them in an order so I can talk about them. Briefly, I'm going to talk about noise, odor, the environmental concerns, traffic, size of lot, human health concerns, not meeting the standards, what those standards are, property values, and those kinds of things. And I'm going to try to run through this briefly. But let's talk about noise first. Noise comes from three sources: animal, truck, or human. It's our belief that the noise level of this site will be diminished with the building of a facility for food processing from the animals. There's a very obvious reason for that. Right now, this property holds animals, animal feeding pens, and they're on site for 3 to 4 weeks. That time period is going to be cut to a much shorter time period. They're going to be on site for probably less than a week, a half week. So the amount of animals is going to shrink on the site, even though that might sound counterintuitive, but we believe the animal noise, if there's any animal noise, we've never heard complaints of animal noise, but if that's an issue, we think it's not going to increase at all, and in fact, it might decrease. Truck noise, we think the truck noise will not increase. There are already trucks entering and exiting the site, namely to deliver animals.
I have to ask you, would it be possible just to pause your testimony for just a moment? They're going to open up this back wall.
Right.
And all you people in the back are going to have to just kind of move your chairs up a little bit, because when that wall opens up, it's going to get wider in order to close. So, you can ask a question right now.
Is this opening statement or is this testimony? Because if it's testimony, he can be under oath.
Yes.
Just a pause.
That's what I think.
about 7 feet.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
well, you could resume your testimony then.
Okay. Is there a time limit on the testimony?
No, not at all.
15
No,
15
you're the
minutes or so?
petitioner.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you. Once again, we were talking about noise, animal, truck, and human. We said animal noise might actually be diminished. It's certainly not going to increase because animals will basically be brought here to the food processing plant rather than being kept on site for 3 to 4 weeks. Truck traffic, we think, is similar to truck traffic noise now. And we say that because right now, trucks come with animals, they drop them off, they come back to pick up those same animals and bring them to food processing plants, okay? There's no longer a need to go back and pick up the animals and bring them because they already will be at the food processing plant. The human noise will not change. We do hope the noise from the shooting range can calm down now that the Sheriff's Department has a new shooting range in Cary. Okay, that's another story. But we talk about noise on the site. This will not increase noise on the site beyond the train, the shooting range, Heartland Township, the Sheriff's impound lot facility that's across the street from us. When we talk about odors, we're talking about manure. We're talking about two sources of odors, really. One is live animals, one is what happens when they're killed, when they're slaughtered, okay? So let's look at the live animals. We have the same reasoning, it's just common sense. They have animals are on site less time because they're there to be brought to the food processing plant now. There's less manure. The manure is carried off once a week. The other side of this, we call it offals. It's O-F-F-A-L-S. It's the entrails, the organs, the inedibles that are part of the process that we do not eat from the animal. They're used for other purposes. Those are kept in a refrigerated room. It's similar to the temperature of your refrigerator, about 40, 45 degrees. And they never leave the building until once a day, a truck comes and picks them up. So there is no smell from those offals. Environmental concerns. There's and this is really we want to be very careful because of course agricultural processes, there are always environmental concerns, and what we're actually talking about here is a food source that a lot of people enjoy on the grill in their kitchen. This is a meat processing plant, a food processing plant that includes the slaughter of animals. But at the same time, we're talking about environmental concerns for the site that have to do with the soil, with the water, and the air. What we're going to suggest to you right now, just again through common sense, is that there will be less impact on this site environmentally than that of a single-family home when it comes to the waste from the building. That's because we'll have an on-site septic system, just to be clear, an on-site septic system that will only serve a few single-user washrooms, employee washrooms, and the kitchen sink and the employee break room. And that's it. Everything else includes blood, wash down, everything that goes on in the processing facility, the processing side, which is completely separate, everything there goes into a tank, a storage tank, a very large tank. And that gets shipped out a couple times a week, depending on how much is in there, how quickly it fills, 2 to 3 times a week. We already talked about traffic a little bit. We don't think the traffic will greatly increase. There will be staff that will come. In this case, varies from 9 to 12 to 13 staff employees workers. They usually carpool. They're there all day. They're not coming and going. But we think the actual number of trucks that come and go to the site isn't going to increase greatly from what's already there, and that's primarily for the reasons I already said. They're not going to pick up the animals and then coming back to pick them up to bring them to food processing. They're going to pick up animals, bring them to food processing, and then take that product away. I want to talk about the size of the lot because I think this is it could be a commonly misunderstood concern. Right now, the Jones Packing House is operating on a site that's about 2.3 acres, and it's been doing so for 70 years. And it's roughly an 11,000 square foot building, the one that burned down. What we're looking at here is a smaller, more efficient, high-tech facility that's actually smaller, right around 9,000 square feet, on a site that's 3 times the size, actually more than 3 times the size. You know what, Illinois, as do most jurisdictions who govern agricultural areas, they have all kinds of regulations concerning the operations, the management of livestock, including pasturing, breeding, what we call animal husbandry, how to treat the animals, feeding and raising them. That's not what this is. That's not what this is. This is strictly food processing. Food processing is different than what we look at for farm regulations. However, there's an entirely different set of regulations. The Illinois Department of Agriculture has regulations governing the use of this building, the governance of how these animals are treated, and we're also subject to USDA regulations. This building will be designed to meet the standards of USDA, and it'll be operated as such. There's concerns about, let's say, I generally categorize them under human health concerns. I think these are very legitimate concerns because I've worked for Tyson, I've worked for companies that have 2,800 employees that are shoulder to shoulder, that have automatic cutters, very sharp instruments, blow torches in their processes. During COVID, there's huge concerns and the spread of, whatever the concern is there, and there's many that we could talk about. Okay, I'd say all those concerns that we agree are out there is a reason why this property, why this facility should go ahead, because what the community is after, what we're looking for is to get away from the giant corporate world's largest food processing companies and go back to those with roots in our community, go back to the local processing that's locally grown, locally processed, locally butchered meat and sold. There's this, maybe you've heard this, it's called the beef box revolution. It's a revolution going on now where more and more people are signing up on the internet to get their beef delivered to their doorstep from facilities such as Olage Farms. And it's actually a fascinating thing. And we see different examples of this cropping up in McHenry County right now. And it's a beautiful thing because we have some trust, we have more trust in how these animals were raised and treated locally, how they were brought to food processing, and how that's being delivered to our doorfront, our doorstep. It's actually redefining how we shop. It follows the farm to table movements, and more people are very interested in things like what Olage Farms is doing. I want to address the standards once again. It's hard to find, I think, an industry that's more regulated than the food production industry, maybe institutional living industry, I don't know, but there's a tremendous number of standards, including not just the local McHenry County Health Department the McHenry County Stormwater Management, the Building Department, the Highway Department. But like I said, Illinois Department of Agriculture and USDA have standards and regulations that we are complying with that will be met during the construction and use of this building. And now I want to get to a big one. It's the property value. It's easy to say, well, this, you know, this use, it's, you know, it's, whatever you want to say about food processing, the word slaughter, you know, it doesn't sound right, it doesn't sit right. We're sterilized, we like our meat clean, we like to pick it up wrapped up already. We don't like to think about this part of the process, but we do like the meat. Okay. With all that said, I think we have evidence specifically in the history of this facility that property values have not decreased. Look at the Jones Packing. I have talked to a number of people who grew up in Harvard about my age. They're proud to say they're graduates of they're Harvard graduates. And they used to ride their bikes up Oak Grove Road back when that was way out in the country. And that was their adventure for the day. And they would ride to the Jones Packing House. And they knew that was the time to come back to town. And there was nothing there at all. Okay, Jones Packing has been there for more than 70 years. And yet the reason Jones Packing cannot rebuild there, Olage Farms cannot rebuild that use there, is because people deemed that as valuable property and they built their homes all around there. And God bless them for that. That is a great thing. But this slaughterhouse has not prevented, it has not prevented those property values from decreasing. In fact, the property values have increased. And that's why we're seeking an appropriate location and A1 zoning. There's a conditional use here that says we have to meet these conditions. No animal slaughter operation will be located within 500 feet of any residential zoning district. We are not within 500 feet of any residential zoning district, and this is not within 500 feet of any residence. And at the same time, the closest residence, the one immediately to the west, is in favor of this project. All slaughtering and processing will occur within an enclosed building. I just explained to you the sound, the noise, the odor. This building is designed not to escape, not to let any of that escape the building. There's standards here that we had to comply with, and just to be truthful here, when you look at the standards, let me just get to that. The approved standards for conditional use, the entire direction is yes and no answers are insufficient, comma, please provide the minimum 1 or 2 sentence explanation. That's exactly what we did. We gave complete answers. I'd like to go through some of these that were concerns. Standard 1 says, please describe how the conditional use meets all applicable standards of 1656 and 1660. Well, we gave a complete answer. It will meet the use of that. We understand what those uses are, and it is I'd like to go through that just briefly here, just so you know that we understand it, and we've studied this and looked through it. Not only do we look through it, but we live this. No animal slaughter operation will be located in a parcel within 500 feet of any residential district or any residential structure. Live animals may be held on the site for no more than 24 hours. All slaughtering and processing is permitted only in an enclosed building. All applicable federal, state, and county rules and regulations shall apply. The facility shall satisfy all requirements of the McHenry County Health Ordinance and applicable building codes. So we don't understand how number 1 is not a complete answer. Number 4 is the same answer as number 3. 2 standards can have the same response. The answer to number 3 is considered a complete answer, so must question 4. But let's go there. Will the conditional use be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the area? Let's look at what's the property in the area and why we think this is an appropriate site for this. It's A1 agricultural zoning. It's the same zoning that, thanks for bringing that up, that the Jones Packing Company was working under the jurisdiction of A1 zoning on Oak Grove Road, the one that burned down. Okay, so what's in this area? We have, of course, you see the double railroad tracks there. On both sides of those railroad tracks, we have things that if people are concerned about diminished property values, we think they should be concerned about this. Industrial steel coatings manufacturing site, the I-1 zoning right there in purple that you see. Multiple pre-engineered steel garage buildings, even with overhead doors facing Nelson Road. I'd say including Heartland Township, right across the street from us. The sheriff's impound car building. We also have the sheriff's shooting range, outside shooting range, like we said, which we don't mind gunfire noise out there. But we also have a Division of Transportation on Nelson Road, right on the other side of the tracks. So we have all these uses. It's kind of a conglomeration of uses, not to mention Valley High senior home there, nursing home, and it's quite a you know, kind of a, like I said, a conglomeration of uses within this street, and we don't see how proposing a facility that is traditionally linked so closely to an agricultural use is inconsistent with the A1 zoning use and the conditional use that goes along with that for allowing this particular use. We can talk about the rest of the standards here. I don't want to nitpick this, but we do give complete answers for questions 5, 8, and 9. Will this be reasonably in the interest of the public welfare? Yes, we said this. And we can discuss, and we should discuss, what do we mean by the public welfare? Does it include honoring a business that's been in the community for 70 years? Does it include putting people to work, providing steaks on their grills? Does it include responding generously back to those organizations and those communities and those associations, local youth organizations that Olage Farms has been supporting since they've been in business? I'd like to come to the standards once again for the approval standards for conditional use. And specifically, I want to just reiterate, the applicable federal, state, county rules and regulations shall apply. The facility shall satisfy all requirements of the McHenry County Health Ordinance and applicable building codes. There is a rigorous review process that this county and this staff is responsible for implementing. To say that we won't, or suggest that we won't meet those standards, that we haven't answered the question that we won't meet those standards, is a slap in the face to that staff at the McHenry Building Department, the Planning Department, the Stormwater Management. But even more so, there's even, I would suggest, a more so rigorous study, a review of standards that we have to comply with for USDA. And we are committed to meeting those standards, or this building will not be built. It's just plain and simple. It's through the process of the plan review, not to get to this point today, but through the process of developing construction drawings and working with those particular entities, which we look at as working as team members in the collaborative process, that we meet those standards. And we don't do so begrudgingly, we do so willingly because we want to make sure this complies with the latest USDA standards. We want to make sure this is an environmentally friendly site. We want to make sure that this is good for the community. We want to make sure that it doesn't have a negative impact to the property values. This is a food processing facility, including the slaughter of animals, that is a facility that we believe, once again, will be a state-of-the-art facility and will be hide neatly within this site, so much better than the one on Oak Grove Road did for 70 years. And a lot of people will most likely not even notice that it's there. I'll stop there.
Can you tell me again, you said you were an architect?
I'm an architect, yes,
Okay,
Gillespie Design Group.
okay. So all these other things that you testified to are just besides being your professional occupation as an architect, correct?
You're asking what gives me the basis to say what I just said?
Yeah.
A lot of it's common sense based on what I said, and it's based on the experience of designing slaughterhouses and food processing facilities, yes. I'm working with USDA regulations, yes.
Okay, we'll start with questions. Am I right, Mr. Kernick?
Just a few questions. First, tell me what have the operations been on this site in the last couple of years? Mr. Leger,
Yes, sir.
perhaps you can tell me what you've been doing on the property for the last couple of years.
Yes, sir. We've been feeding sheep and goats. That's our main.
Could you speak up, sir?
Oh, sorry.
We have people hard trying to hear.
Okay, yeah. We've been dealing with sheep and goats the last couple of years. We've been feeding sheep and goats, a few cattle, and also we've been keeping them there so we can transform them to a place where we can get them harvested. So,
Can I add here, the Illinois Department of
One
Agriculture?
person talks at a time.
Okay.
Let him talk, and then if you want to add something. let
so
him
it's
finish.
been a farm, a farm that we've been dealing with livestock. That's what it's been for the last couple of years, yes.
Very little cattle, I take it.
Very little cattle, mostly sheep and goats.
And now your food processing is going to be a substantial amount of cattle.
Well, it's sheep and goats, I would say number-wise. Cattle will be for our custom clients, which is our local farmers. So if a farmer wants to get it done, if it's 10 farmers, we talk about 10, 15, 17 cattle a week, So it's gonna be for my sheep and goats and my cattle, which is only a few of them, 3, 4 a week. But on top of it, we wanna see if we can do our custom, if it's possible, our custom farmers, like local farmers to get them processed.
I'm just thinking of manure generation on the area, how it's going to be different with the new facility as opposed to what it currently is.
Well, as a farm, sheep and goat farm, feedlot, normally manure gets created more because you got feed, you got hay, you got bedding. When they stay there for a month, 3 weeks, they're gonna create more manure because you're talking about bedding. So it'll be a larger amount of manure, which is what's been happening. That's what we've been doing. That's how we've been dealing. With every other farm does that. Whoever raises cattle, they're gonna create manure because they got bedding in it. So that's what I've been doing, Getting this whole processing done, it'll be different because these animals won't be there for 3 weeks. They'll come on Sunday, they will get harvest Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They'll be gone by then. It all can be managed, depends on the orders. So if I get them on Sunday night, I can harvest them on Monday. I can harvest them on Tuesday. If I get another load delivered on Wednesday, or Tuesday night, it'll get harvested on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. You know, so all that can be managed that way. And that's how we say it's gonna be less manure created, because if you keep 100 goats in the pen where they're gonna eat for a week, they're gonna peel the hay, they're gonna work with the hay, you know, they're gonna create a bedding themselves, or we're gonna put bedding for them to be okay. On the other hand, here, they'll get there and they'll get harvest the next day. So the amount of manure will be less, way less. So that's what Dave was saying, that's what's gonna change, yeah.
Okay, and how would
Bill,
you?
Bill, could I ask you to speak up a little
Oh,
bit?
I'm
They're
sorry.
having trouble hearing down here at the
I'm
other
sorry, I usually can speak pretty loud. And currently, how frequently do you haul the manure off-site?
Right now, we spread during the winter time is when I have my farmer that comes and helps me and spreads it on my land. We have a pile of manure now that's gonna get spread in a couple, I would say hopefully, if it get, you know, in a couple of days or weeks, depends when he gets the chance. And it's one of my farms that I work with because he's got the equipment to do it, and I done it in the past seasons. So that can be delivered, that can be cleaned up, and you know, and after we get spread it, if it's still too much for that land where I spread it, then it's gonna get removed. Yeah.
A couple more questions.
Yes.
One, I saw, and I see up there, it says, on HH2, live animals may be held on site for no more than 24 hours. If you're gonna be holding them on site for more than 24 hours, how are you gonna be complying with HH? And perhaps that's a question for your Mr. Gillespie or your counsel.
The conditional use applies to this building and its immediate area. There's still property beyond that that does not receive the conditional use.
I believe, Mr.
Anna, can you clarify that?
So the application included the entire parcel, so the conditional use permit was advertised for the entire parcel.
So the standards would apply to the
Okay.
total parcel, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
If I can, Mr. Kernick, I believe Mr.
You need to introduce yourself.
Sorry. Board, my name is Vincent Incopero, counsel for the Olagues and Olage Farms. I believe, Mr. Kernick, the question proposed to Mr. Olage was the nature and extent of the duration of the stay of the animals. And as he had said in his testimony, which was a little protracted, I think, is that animals would come in on a Saturday or a Sunday night to be processed the following day. So the nature, the duration of their stay, really as animals, right, as living beings, would not exceed a 24-hour period. He used the word, I think he said processing or harvested. And I believe, I'm not a butcher, so I can only speak to that. Perhaps they slaughter, then they break it down, and that breakdown period occurs over a matter of days, but in living form, those animals they're hotel guests. They show up, they have a nice stay overnight, and then the next day they're moved on to where they need to go, into a different form, if you will.
Well, that's not the way I understood his testimony. So I'll ask him the question.
Okay.
Doing the operations, because I assume you're not familiar with how the slaughtering operations and how the meatpacking business operates.
Not yet, Mr.
Okay.
Kernick.
Now, are there going to be any livestock that arrive on your premises and are still there alive for 24 hours?
They have to, I believe they have to be there, yes. They have to be there, because if let's say if I get a farmer bring in a cattle, we normally don't harvest them right away. We gotta let them sit there, relax. We gotta let them become comfortable. We gotta let it sit there, you know, to get its harvest. So,
Okay.
yes.
So, thank you. Now I'll ask you the question, given that what he just said now, which was pretty clear, how do you anticipate complying with H2?
I believe, Mr. Kernick, the petitioner will have to explain to his customers that that's not gonna be permissible. They're gonna need to make, like, when the when the livestock arrives, that they're gonna have to be within a tight 24-hour time frame.
Mr. Olage, I'm sorry.
Can I add something there?
No, it's
Sorry, sir.
I mean, there's no reason to apologize. Do you anticipate that you will be able to comply with H2, which at least the way I read it, and staff can correct me, a live animal can't be there more than 24 hours?
I'll answer this if it's acceptable. Yeah.
If you can.
Yeah, I think we have to define what we mean by site here, because there's no slaughterhouse out there that would accept 24 hours, because what Mr. Olage just said is that animals have to be stress-free before you slaughter them, otherwise they turn white, and the meat turns white. You want a bright red meat, okay? And it takes a while to make them stress-free. And so that's usually a 48 to even 72-hour period. So that's just normal procedure for slaughterhouses. We need to look into the definition of site here, because my understanding was that referred to this special use of this facility here, being here.
Can I
So would there be a matter of separate parcels?
Anna, could you clarify?
So, as I understand it, the legal description that was provided for the conditional use permit was for the entire parcel. So the conditional use permit applies to the entire parcel. We do have slaughter facilities that I'm aware of that do comply with this 24-hour period. Is it possible that the animals could be placed on a different parcel? If it's an agriculturally zoned property, it's agricultural use, so yes, it could be placed on a separate parcel.
And, I mean, the ordinance is there, I guess is my problem. And we had, several weeks ago, we had a meat processing company, Pork King. And at least as I recall from their testimony, they were slaughtering animals within 24 hours.
Yeah.
So that's there.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to raise it and just see how you addressed it.
Can I speak?
You sure can.
Okay, sorry. The way we figured that, I think we have to understand on number 2 is, within the facility, there's gotta be, you have to have, on any slaughterhouse, you have to have loading and unloading pens for livestock, which that's part of the facility. That's where those animals normally fall into that rule, that they can be there or not be there for no more than 24 hours. They get in there in the morning, they get harvested until 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever the time is, that's it. But those are the pens within the facility. Now, we're talking, the reason why we're probably a little confused, because we have our normal pens with our livestock. So that might be a little different, than we're not understanding the point. What I believe that I meant is, or that we meant is that the pens that are within the facility, those will not have animals in there for more than 24 hours.
Okay, now, the pens within the facility, well, where would animals be kept? Cattle be kept for, if they come in on a Sunday and they order until Tuesday, where is a cow to be kept, a steer?
Well, we have existing pens right now.
Okay.
Already. Now, if that's something I guess we have to figure it out, because we have existing pens already where we keep our livestock.
Bottom line is bottom line is there's gonna be a cow, as an example, on your parcel of property somewhere for more than 24 hours based upon your current operation.
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
Okay, we've addressed that. At the facility in Harvard, did you ever have any complaints against your company for operations?
Well, personally, physically, no. I don't know, I mean.
I'll put aside the USDA issue.
Oh, yeah, we find out.
Other than that.
I actually search information, and I actually search the people I were to find out. And we had a state inspector there every day, and he wouldn't know if this complaints were true or not. Otherwise, he would have stopped me.
Okay, so as far as you're aware, at least your prior operation before the fire, when you owned it, you didn't have any complaints about the operation of your facility? Is that fair to say?
Nobody came to my door asking, but saying that I had a complaint. Nobody had came to me in person, physically, no.
Now, I saw that there was a USDA suit against your company, I believe, that was settled in 2020 for, did you own it? When did you acquire the property? When did you acquire the New Jones package?
2019.
2019?
Yeah.
There was reported a settlement, maybe it was against the prior owners. There was reported a settlement by the USDA,
Okay.
a complaint. Did you own the company at the time? About not making payments on time?
Well, no, actually.
And if that was the case,
Mhm.
was it because of the fact that you had the fire that caused the disruption?
No, that was before then. And that was when I started my business, when I first bought Jones. Normally what happens, and this is what happened, and exactly the same thing that happened with some people calling Springfield. When I started buying livestock, certain people will probably not. This is what normally happens. Certain people won't be happy the fact that I come into the market.
Mhm.
So they have the right to call whoever they want, and that's kind of what happened. So I did had in this history, what happened is I had one of my checks bounced from one of the auctions that I bought livestock. So automatically they called USDA. They came in, they checked that out. We fixed it within days.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what happened on that, which I'm not embarrassed of saying it. Everybody that starts a business and doesn't have enough money to do it, they're gonna go through rough times. So that's what I did. That's what happened with this settlement that you're talking about.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that ultimately, as part of the resolution, people got paid,
Yeah.
right?
It was within days, but they have to make that. USDA have to come out, PMS came out, they check all my paperwork, they check on everything else, my accounts and everything, and it was good.
Maybe this is for Mr. Gillespie. How familiar are you with the actual operations of a slaughterhouse? The actual.
How familiar am I? I've been to many slaughterhouses, I've witnessed it, I've dressed up, I've seen hogs slaughtered, I've seen cows slaughtered, I've seen chickens, even fish, lobster.
Well,
Is that your
I'm
question?
looking more at operations, because I mean, one of the complaints, one of the objectors had a question concerning water usage of this facility. I have no idea what the water usage would be in this plant. You know, you say it's gonna be state-of-the-art, but I don't know to what extent you're familiar with the state-of-the-art operation, in fact, operation, other than to say, I know animals get killed there.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to gloss over that. No, it gets sprayed down with 180-degree water approximately 3 times a day to kill flora, okay? And it has to be clean, and there's cleaning agents that are involved. Everything in that goes to the storage tank.
That I understand, but I was curious, how much water do you anticipate using per day or per week in the operation of the facility? Any idea, sir?
Well, that will probably depends on the orders, but
And this is Mr. Oleg. I mean, we gotta, because this is being recorded, we gotta make sure that, we know who's speaking. So
Yes.
when you guys are interchanging, so go ahead and answer the
I'm sorry.
question then. That's okay.
My fault.
Well, I'm sorry, orders. Well, all depends, I guess, on the orders. It depends on how many animals get processed. Do I have an exact idea? I don't. To answer your question, I don't. But I mean, I guess it all depends on the animal that get harvested, get processed.
If I could attempt to address your questions.
Sure, and if you could identify yourself.
My name is
for the
Vincent
record.
Incopero, counsel for Mr. Malagi. I believe the question asked of the petitioner was, what was the nature and extent of their use? Because there's public concern as to their site use as to the perhaps the strain on the local water. And so as we all know, how much water is used is based on a myriad of factors. I think more specifically, if the board and/or the community is looking for an impact or some kind of study to be determined if the site has enough sufficient water based on their own site, we could certainly look into that and order those tests or reports and provide them for the board and for the citizens, the community as a whole, for them to determine the impact of the water use.
And as I understand, the pens, the current pens that you have and a couple other buildings are going to stay? Correct, from looking at the site?
Correct, yeah.
Do we have the site plan up again? Anna, if you could make it a little bit bigger, please. Good enough. You see right over the image of the truck, the outline of the truck right by the door on the drive, the shipping door. There's something that looks like a sun. See those little?
You want to just get up, Bill, and point it out, maybe?
Probably easier.
Those are proposed light fixtures. We were asked to show where the potential light fixtures would be because there's a lighting ordinance that we need to comply with here. Yes.
That answers my question. I have no further questions at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay. On to Mr. Schnabel.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. I'm going to follow up on my colleagues' questions about the water initially, and I will have a few more. Because I'd like us all to have a better understanding of how this works. I mean, the Port King people gave us a very clear, comprehensive analysis, I would say, of their operation, and they even offered tours of their operation, which I don't know how many board members here would be willing to take them up on anyway, but getting to my point, on that same layout, there's no evidence of where the septic would be or where the well would be. I assume we're going to need a new water supply for this facility, correct?
There's a septic field shown in a dashed line up the upper left part of that site there. It's not a big septic field requirement.
Well, yeah, based on your testimony, I would assume it's just some restrooms and sinks, and then the rest of it's not going to go in a septic system, which is good. But I would like to know, before I vote to approve anything, I would like to know what the estimate would be from someone qualified to come up with such an estimate, and whether a simple 4-inch residential type well would supply that, or if you would be increasing the size to say a 6-inch well. Water is always a concern. We've basically been in a drought for the past 3 years here, not severe, but certainly not on the wet side. So that would be my first ask. The second one I have, and I don't want to get too graphic on any of this.
I'm sorry, Kurt, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just in the back, and it is extremely difficult for people to hear, so I'm going to ask everybody to project as loud as you can. Okay.
Use your country voice.
That was about as loud as I get.
Thank you.
Without getting too graphic, going a ways back in Mr. Gillespie's testimony here, we went to the subject of the offals, and I'm going to maybe rephrase that, entrails. I don't think there's too much difference there, right?
No.
Where, in addition to those items, where does most of the majority of the blood get disposed of? Does it get disposed during the washdown period, or just what exactly happens with that? Is it the blood considered offals?
No, there's, right at the beginning of the process, there's a blood collection system, and it's mostly gathered right there. The blood that's gathered during the rest of the process over the floor isn't as much blood, and it's more water than blood, okay? And that's, that all gets, it all flows into drains that go directly into a storage tank. And that tank is what's picked up and taken away.
So the water and the blood gets mixed together
Yes.
in this storage tank. Okay,
Yes.
that answers the question there. I'm almost done with this topic. How many gallons is the storage tank, and is there only one of them?
So this is your storage tank now.
Oh, gosh, every time the truck will come out, oh, gosh, I think it was, I'm not sure exactly, but 3,000-4,000 gallons. There's bigger trucks that will come out, take half, that, I'm talking about numbers from Lawrence, from Jones, yes. So we add I think it was a 20,000 gallon container back at Jones, because I'm sure this question's gonna come up somewhere. But we had to add it over there to retain some of these this blood and this liquids, yeah.
So you had, if I understand correctly, 20,000 gallon tank when you had Jones's building.
Yes.
Okay.
But no, it was not used, it was not filling up all the time. That was, the reason why we added is because to the previous tanks that were there before, so there was no failures, we added a $20,000 gallon, oh shit, I'm sorry, it was a $20,000 tank that I put in there. So I would say it was probably a 10,000 gallon, and I'm not sure, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can we get back to you on that?
Sorry.
One person at a time.
Yeah, can we get back to you on that?
You have to
Because we're not.
separate. You have to let the petitioner answer the question, and then if you refer to him, you have to say his name. I mean, otherwise, this
I'm sorry.
recording is not going to differentiate between the two of you.
And I'll kind of summarize really quick. Normally what it is like Dave said it comes to a special tank. It keeps draining to probably three different tanks. So that's how the process runs. It comes to the solid when all the blood comes in. Then it overloads to a second tank, okay, which is decomposed already. Then overloads to a third one. That's what we were doing over there. Then it was sending to the fourth tank that we add to it. So that way, when these people come and think that it's already processed. That's kind of how it worked back then. So I'll pass it on to Dave if he wants to add something to it, yeah.
I would like more detail on that process. When you're moving it from one tank to another 3 or 4 times, are chemicals being added in any of these stages for certain methodologies of cleaning the effluent? Are you doing your own more or less basic sewage treatment at that point? What's the need for these 4 different tanks?
We're not moving it. They're moving by themselves. That's how they set them up in the ground. These companies, septic companies, they set them up properly, so automatically, when this one gets filled, it goes to the next one. So we're not moving them. We're not touching them, and we're not adding anything to it. It does by itself. When they take it from there, they take it to a processing plant where they deal with all that stuff themselves, yeah.
And all the tanks are above ground, I'm assuming?
They're in ground.
They're in ground?
Yes.
All right, so they're all gravity flow. We don't have to worry about electric pumps necessarily, but we need some way of maintaining it underground, and it's beyond but we're all aware of that now, so thank you for that.
Do you mind if I add to that?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. So the size of the tanks is a factor of how often they get picked up. That's the size. The reason why the tanks, it's not a septic process. The reason the tanks are situated like they are is because nothing goes to waste. And there's a separation of blood, which is heavier, into other liquids. And there's specific things that the hauler does with those different elements. And then he pumps out the tanks.
I think I only have 2 more questions before I pass it along. Who is the waste hauler for the fluids currently?
Collins Sanitary.
And where are they out of?
They're in Wisconsin. Clinton, Wisconsin, I believe.
I know Clinton well, I like that town. My last question is, assuming you get this 10-year conditional use, I'm curious, what size investment do you have to make to put up this new facility, roughly?
Gosh, as far as, that will be probably a question that I want to pass on to colleague here if we can. I mean, as far as numbers, in my mind, as far as my numbers, we don't know exactly what construction-wise they're gonna cost us. We don't even have a number exact yet, but, I mean, if we're talking over, you know, I don't know, that would be something that probably Dave will have a better idea. I mean,
We hate to throw out a number without having generated construction drawings, okay, and especially without going out to bid. We're talking about millions of dollars, and I don't know if that's at least 2, hopefully not more than 3, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay, I will pass along, please.
If I may, ma'am, were there insurance proceeds from the fire?
there are, yes, there are taken care of.
That's all I had, thank you.
Ms. Gardner?
Okay, I had a trach tube last week, so my voice is not what it normally is. If you can't hear me, just raise your hand, and I will stand up and shout as loud as I can. Okay, now the original site that Jones was on that you bought, that was zoned A1, is that correct?
Yes, it was A1, it was commercial, I believe, and
Speak up, sir, please.
A1, commercial, and industrial,
Or was it also industrial?
yes.
And why were you not allowed to rebuild on that site?
Of my understanding from different conversations with the county, it was just, the new ordinance, the new system, it just doesn't allow us.
Okay, if you don't know the answer, I'll just wait and I'll ask staff that.
She will, yeah, she has.
I'm gonna have to stand up, my voice is failing
Sorry.
already.
I can address that if you'd like. I can address that if you'd like.
Okay,
There's 4 lots that comprised of the site on Oak Grove Road. I believe 3 are A1 and 1 is I2, I believe. Does that sound right? The reason we can't rebuild there is because if it's more than a 50% loss, and this is the way the McHenry County UDO is written, if it's more than 50% loss, and this was a complete loss due to the fire, it's considered a new building, and we can't rebuild. It's considered new, and we can't put up a new facility that's within 500 feet of residential. We're surrounded by residential there.
okay. Now, the site that you're on now, are you actually raising animals there, or are they just coming in for slaughter?
The site that we have, they fall in the section of feeding, and keeping them there, line them up for harvesting, yes.
Okay, by harvesting, you mean killing?
Kill, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Just to
don't
make
know.
it clear.
Yeah, slaughter them, yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry if I sound angry, that's how I sound when I'm yelling. Okay, now you said the animals that come in for slaughter or harvesting, are those locally raised animals or are they from somewhere else?
Most of them are. They're Illinois. The way we work, we operate is, we used to deal with a lot of local farmers ourselves, and we still do deal with them. What they do is they bring their livestock to us when they need to sell it. So nowadays, they deal with a lot of the auctions instead. So what they do is, a lot of these farmers don't probably want to bring them straight to us, or they want to send them to the auctions, because obviously there is the best higher bidder. I guess it works differently, you know. We normally have a buyer on each auction, and he buys them, but they're a local race. They just bring them to these auctions, yes. And I do get out of state, so, you know.
Okay. Now, what are you actually doing on this site right now? What operations are taking place on this site?
Well, right now, it's just, we're raising crop in the back, which is alfalfa. We're farming alfalfa. We also like I said, we have on the east side of the property, we have our pens where we keep our livestock. So we keep them there, like I said, for 3 weeks, and then we move them on. Or if they get there today, we need them to harvest them tomorrow. If we need the orders, we do that. We take them out to the plant where we need to harvest them.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know if I answered that question right. But yeah, we deal with livestock right now.
Okay. That answers that. And you said the manure was removed once a week?
No, when Dave said the manure will be removed once a week because of the whole control of the process. Right now, what it is, we have a pile of manure that gets sit there, and then around this time, we spread it on the field. Now, we try to work with our west part of the farmer on the west side, but they already put their crop in there, so we will only spread it on my field. Whatever's left over from there is gonna get chipped out, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but when he said it will be removed, if this whole thing comes along, that manure will be removed
From the
once a
pile?
week. It won't even be a pile.
Okay.
It'll be, whatever animals come in, and they get processed, that'll be removed once a week.
Okay.
Right now, it's a pile because I raise animals, or I feed animals, and they create, manure. So we pile them up, we keep them in there, and then we spread them, and then whatever is not gonna be there, whatever we can't spread, it'll be shipped out.
Okay. Now, this is probably a question for Mr. Gillespie. Say this whole petition goes through and is approved and all the permits are given, how long will it take to build this processing plant that you're talking about?
My assumption here is 3 to 4 months for permits, plans and permits, and then 7 to 9 months for construction. Depending on where that falls at time of year, then there's additional site improvements that can be done concurrently or subsequent to that. Driveways, street improvements, and that kind of thing.
So a total of?
A year or so,
Before it's actually up and operating?
yes.
Okay. And now what are you doing in the meantime?
Right now, we still operate. We have different slaughterhouses that we deal with, and that's where we take our livestock and get it processed.
So you take them out of the site and have them
Yes.
killed and butchered there?
Yes, and then we ship them out to our customers, yes.
Okay. So if this petition is not approved ultimately, then you'll have to continue to do that?
Yes, we'll have to find out.
If you are okay for this, yeah, okay. I think that's all I have for now, and I'm losing my voice quickly, so I'm gonna say thank you.
Mr. Eldridge.
Yes, I would like to note for the record that my family have been customers of Jones for its entire existence, and that I personally have purchased meat produced by my grandson and slaughtered at Oligay Farm since they've owned it. And my grandson, who feeds out steers, has had them slaughtered at Oligay as well as other area slaughterhouses that accept very small operators like my grandson. First, I'd like to ask Anna a question, if I could. Right now, what the feeding and storage of animals on an agricultural district is something that may be done of right in A1 without any conditional use or anything. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what he's doing is entirely with, and the amount of manure produced or whatever is simply not relevant to that issue. The zoning gives him permission to produce as much manure as he chooses and do whatever he wishes with it. Is that not correct?
I was okay with your question up till you got to how much manure. Yes, he's allowed to have the animals and the products that they produce, yes.
Now, if the conditional use is granted, is that going to eliminate his right to feed out cattle? Or as long as they are kept appropriately separate and comply with state and federal rules, can he continue to have a separate operation to feed out animals?
He can certainly continue to house his own animals on the property. If the animals are being kept there for the purpose of slaughter, then I believe that 24-hour period would be in play.
Okay, but that really is that a decision of the county or is that a decision of the state or federal regulations?
And the 24-hour period is a county regulation.
Okay. So if he wanted to have a feeding operation, he could do it if he bought the animals and they were his. With a customer's operation, he would have to have a separate agriculturally zoned pen in order to continue to do that.
That might be one way of getting
Well, he
around.
couldn't. Well, he couldn't on this on this site.
Right.
But he could with animals. That
If he wanted to do it either next door or property down the road, wherever, if it's agriculturally zoned property, yes.
Okay. There's a residence, Mr. Oligay, there's a residence on this site which the site plan indicates is going to remain. Is that rented or is that your home or someone else's?
No, we rented them now.
It's rented to a third party?
Yeah.
And you intend to
Speak up, please.
Yes, we are. We're renting it right now, yes. Relative.
It's rented to a relative?
Yes, a relative, yes.
And you intend to continue to rent it, to keep the house and rent it going into the future, is that
Yes,
correct?
if we can, yes, yes.
Okay. If everything goes well and this facility is produced, how many animals do you anticipate that you will be processing in a week?
Well, as my own animals, it runs between, on the lamb and the goat part, it runs between 300 to 400 a week.
Okay.
Okay? That's something different than, you deal with poor King, he deals with 3,000 a day. We
yes,
do
I'm aware of that.
300 to 400, 300 to 400 a week. It might go a little bit, it might come down. I guess it all depends on my orders from our customers. Now, as far as our local farmers, it all depends on who wants to come and how many cattle they want to do. So what I did in the past is I manage it between minimum 13, maximum 17 a week, cattle. Okay, yeah, cattle.
All right, just to summarize then, you anticipate several hundred lambs and goats a week, but fewer than 20 steers, and I don't know about birds like geese or ducks, but not very many, and an insignificant number of those.
They work differently, yeah. I guess most of them are local farmers.
Yeah.
If that's the case, if we happen to do them, it's just local farmers. So most of the time will be on fair, fair days,
Okay.
Yeah, or holiday days, yeah.
That really is more a courtesy than a business, the birds, if you will.
Yeah. Yes.
Or any other animals, rabbits, whatever,
Yes.
other than
Sheep and the goats.
cattle and goats and lambs.
Yes.
And even the steers aren't really your business, it's an accommodation to local farmers.
Correct. The steers, we only process, and we did process only up to five steers the most. We could have, for ourselves, a weekly thing. But most of them were, like you said, just to accommodate the local farmers. Whatever comes in, we take.
All right, that's all I've got at the moment.
Ms. Donner?
Do you also include deer in your processing, or can you?
We can, it's a custom, yes, we can.
I only ask because there are a lot of deer hunters out here, and when they do it in their garages, it's a little different. You know? I've seen it, and if, never mind. Will you be working this processing plant 7 days a week? I've gotten so much information, I've forgotten some of it. So 7 days a week? Because you're talking about getting some meat on the hoof on Sunday and not taking care of it until Monday, Tuesday, or you would get it on Thursday and it would be maybe Saturday. So is that a 7 day a week processing?
Yeah, I'm gonna explain a little bit about the process the way our business works a little bit. See, as far as the lamb and the goats, it's a process that most of our customers want them fresh, which it is, you harvest them today, you hang them, you reach the proper temperature, and then you ship them out the next day. So lamb and goat is not a carcass that you want to keep there for 5 days, 7 days,
Right.
10 days, because it'll go bad. So you have to get them harvest the next day, we chill them and we ship them out.
Okay.
Okay, cattle, we do have to keep them, yes,
Because they're big.
yes, we have to age them to a certain, to the proper time that is gonna give the right age for that steak, for that beef part, you know? So cattle is the one that stays the longer in the facility. Shipping goes to come today, harvest them, or you harvest them today, you chill them, we deliver them to the next day. And most of our product almost goes carcasses. We hang them, we put them on we package them, and we send them out. We cut them on boxes, the next day they leave. Most of our product. So when you hear 300, 400 lambs a week, it's not like we're gonna have 300 lambs sitting in there. We harvest 70 today, we ship them tomorrow. We do another 100 the next day, depends on the orders, we ship them the next day. Yeah, that's how it works with the lamb and the goat market for us.
Okay, that's fine. My other questions will be for Anna. That's it for me. Thank you. Mr. Cozen? Mr. Cozen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and my colleague. Can we start, who owns the current property?
My wife and I own the properties.
Thank you.
Which,
Oh, yeah, both, I guess.
Well, that poses a question. The plat of survey from 2009 with part of the application shows no other structures on the property. So can you walk me through what exactly was destroyed in the fire? I'm not familiar with the area and the illustration with the yellow.
It's a different.
It's a different property, sir.
So the plat of survey
is
is,
for,
and that's where my confusion is.
The plan of survey that we have now is for Nelson Road in Woodstock, Illinois.
Gotcha,
With the fire situation, that's in Harvard.
gotcha.
Yes, so we're trying to get there.
So what is on,
Okay, on the survey that we got, the residence, which is,
Right.
yeah, and then we have a small garage to the west of, northwest of the house.
right,
Okay, we have our pens, our three-sided pens where we keep our livestock on the right side.
right.
Okay, and the other one, the other building is right where there's a little chicken coop I got in there where I keep there's chickens.
And so the plat of survey that's with the application does not show the chicken coops and so forth, if you can,
No, that's all gonna, if that can be removed, this is not a structure building, it's not a big building. Correct, you understand? The chicken coop on the left side there, it's a small little, four-sided little building, so that's not, it doesn't have to be there, we don't have to have it.
And those will not remain on the property during the construction of the proposed facility?
No, that's gonna be gone.
So that's be
Yeah.
removed. So how do you address the continuation of you having pens for animals that are not part of the building and may be remaining on the property longer than 24 hours?
That, our main animals that are main concern, because I don't have to have chickens. I would like to have chickens, but I don't have to have them. But if you go farther to my east side of the
Could you go
property.
up, sir, and maybe point out where you're speaking of?
All right, here. So this is the residence right here.
Right.
This is my garage, okay? Little garage we have in there. My chicken coop is right there. You probably see it right there, the little corner right there. So this is where most of my animals stay here, okay? East of the property. Okay, this is where the new facility that we were thinking, that we're planning to get built, you know, so here is most of my animals stay here. This is my 3-sided buildings where they come in and they stay inside, so.
And am I, just to keep pursuing it, the 2009 plat does not show those buildings. Is that correct?
Probably, yeah.
And your plan is to remove those buildings should you move forward with the construction of this new facility?
We don't have to move them.
So they'll remain?
Yes, they can, yes.
Mr. Kosin, Vincent Copero, attorney for Olage.
Yes.
Are you asking Mr. Olage if the site plan that we're seeing right now
Right.
adequately depicts the final proposed site, the site?
Both, thank you, Counselor.
Yeah.
In both perspectives.
Okay.
Rather than relying on the plat of survey which was appended to the application, can we rely on existing conditions as seen in the proposed site plan?
And I think Mr. Gillespie would be best to speak with this because he's been engaged with the design elements. But I just wanted to clarify
Thank you.
your question so that at the point of discussion, we could get you a proper response.
We need to develop the site plan, obviously, and the chicken coop is the building that's not going to remain. The animal pens on towards the east side of the site are going to remain as is. That's the intended use. The residence and the garage were going to remain. We're going to try to keep as much of the pens there as possible, just leave it existing to remain. But that's, yeah, that's it.
First. So this plat of survey, sorry. But, yeah, we're planning to remain, we're planning to keep them, yes.
That's one part of the question. And the other part is that this, you're prepared to represent that this is the existing conditions for the property, if notwithstanding the plat of survey that is appended to the application.
That's my subjective understanding. Again, I defer to Mr. Gillespie. I'm not.
You're not the owner, counsel.
I've not been to the site. I can't, I'm ill-equipped to speak to the property in its current condition.
No, this aerial photo is exactly what's there now, with the exception of, the
This is
superimposed.
Mr. Gillespie speaking now?
I'm sorry.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
The aerial photos is exactly what's there. These buildings that are on the county website are what's there, yes.
Thank you. And taking that just a step further, I'm sorry, bad with names. Gentleman who's just speaking, are you licensed to practice architecture in the state of Illinois?
Yes.
Then let's, going forward with another factual question. There's a discussion in the, on that document concerning traffic in that area, projected traffic, and the application form talks about the proposed food processing, this is page 18 of 27. We anticipate about 30 vehicle visits per week. The footnote on that document runs through some details. It says there will be 2 relative to the existing residents. There'll be 30 per week from the house. There'll be deliveries. Is there is there a detail to try to reconcile the various numbers in terms of the traffic that is expected in this facility once completed?
Okay, so this is Dave Gillespie again. One of the requests by the
Staff plat.
yeah, the committee that reviewed this and recommended us was to have a traffic study completed. And that's absolutely something that we'll have to comply with, and we have a traffic impact study to verify what these trips are per day. Remember, I don't know if you're referring to the traffic generation per day on the site plan?
Yes.
Yes, those were estimates, and that needs to be verified by traffic impact study. And that's there's a number of things the traffic impact study will verify.
If I may, Mr. Costa, Vincent Copero, again, attorney for the Olagues. Is the nature and extent of your question to what extent the board can rely on the traffic numbers set forth on the appended survey that we're now looking at?
Again, Counselor, I appreciate your assistance because it was represented that the application would be able to fulfill the ordinance section as a conditional use in terms of not being injurious to the property and immediate facility, diminished property values, drainage and facilities, all of which go potentially towards traffic. And so looking at which traffic number, how do we evaluate what was represented under oath, that there would not be this diminution in existing conditions?
I believe, based on testimony previously given by Mr. Gillespie, who's sitting here, who also I would encourage to speak, if to the extent that I'm incorrect, is that the adjacent parcels are mostly of commercial use. We have a wrecking yard, we have a shooting range, or a storage yard rather, an impound, a shooting range, we have a manufacturing facility, we have other businesses of commercial use, not so much residential. And so that the nature and extent of the use of this parcel would be equivalent and or less as it would be on the adjacent parcels, given the fact that the number of employees that the Olage facility would employ, and the fact that the residence would be continued to be used as a home for the occupants there. So in terms of diminution, I think there would be an increased volume of traffic, but not injurious to the others based on that it'll be self-contained on the site and it won't be, the use or the traffic wouldn't be as much as the adjacents.
Just to return the focus, again, page 18 talks about maximum numbers, definitive numbers. It goes to an anticipatory consequence, but then it concludes factually that there are no significant environmental impacts. I'm just trying to follow along that algorithm to know which set of numbers, and then to confuse matters further, Madam Chairman, we have an offering here that there's a possibility of still an outstanding traffic study. So if there is a bucket list being created, I'd like that to be added to that.
I would say, Mr. Cozen, that under staff plat review, it was transportation said that the owner will do the following: undertake a traffic impact study. So that has already been a requirement of the county, that he would have to do that.
If I may, as a point of clarification, Vincent Copero, counsel for the Olagues. In this office's or this board's meeting minutes dated November 20th, I'd like to refer back to the section 4.1 and then with a heading of MCDOT, which I believe is the County Department of Transportation, wherein it states Mr. McGraw reviewed comments written by Ray Beats. He highlighted the right-of-way dedication, requirements for a traffic study that would determine the type of access permit that would be required in a turn lane if it were needed. I believe that the board should rely on the findings of the traffic study as authoritative as to the nature and extent of the traffic on this site and to the surrounding area. As those folks, it's their profession, and it's their profession to know what the traffic would look like based on the proposed site, the proposed site drawings, and the current structures that exist. I would say you would look to them as being authoritative for your questions.
And then one more, and goes to area. If we can call up that aerial photo which shows the 500 feet, the centerpiece. And could you just walk us through generally what those land uses are around there? Whether with a pen or outside, down the road?
You want me to point the properties?
Yes, just the generalized area. I mean, starting from like the railroad. I did note, and you can confirm, is there a railroad line to the west?
This is our property right here. I'm sure Mr. Lipko's here, he's probably somewhere in the audience, that belongs to him. This over here is Mr. Larson, he couldn't make it. I talked to him, I have conversations with him, I mentioned to him what was going on. He couldn't make it, he hasn't given me any issues. This property right here is the closest one to our property, which is Mr. Flowers. He couldn't make it either, but we got a letter from him saying that he's not objecting to anything. Besides here, we got...
If they can pull it out so we can go up.
Yeah.
Can we see the railroad?
Do I have to do it or?
I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Okay, so we got, where am I? Okay, Nelson Road, railroad tracks, factory. This is our little town of Heartland Township. I believe this is Heartland Township buildings. Yeah, over here we have, the street departments, I think, or what is the?
Valley High.
Transportation, yeah, on this side. Nursing home, like right here, and on the other side is nursing home right here. So this is our little town right here where we at. That's our place. The compound for the sheriff department is on the other side. This is right here. Now this is, I don't know who it belongs to. That's something from McHenry County. I don't know. It belongs to somebody. Yeah. So that's the compound, and that's about it. I don't know the lady on this side. Everything's farm around it. So go ahead.
Excuse me, thank you. And then northeast?
Northeast. East is Mr. I can't pronounce his last name.
But the use is?
Residential.
Residential. It's actually agriculture. Yeah. This is right here. It's all ag. Yeah, he farms that. So, and also in the back, towards the back, if you bring it down. I don't know if you can do it, but anyway, back is farmland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
That's it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have a few questions for Mr. Olague. Where does your meat go that you produce, that you process here?
The majority of my meat goes outside of McHenry County. What stays in McHenry County is custom and privates. Privates means if you call me today and you say, Eduardo, can you harvest the lamb for me? Can you process it and bring it to me? Yes, I would do it.
And what percent of your business is that local, and what percent is what you purchase, slaughter, and then sell?
I guess I never did a number, but most of it and the main percentage is me going out of the county, work with a lot of our customers are here, bring our business back to McHenry County. And
because I see in the file, there's lots of letters from people in Chicago that say they received meat from you. So
yes,
I'm just wondering,
yes,
you know.
We take them out to restaurants, stores, and also private individuals outside of different ethnic groups, different nationalities, and yes, that's what we do.
I also saw a letter of, one of the letters that came from Equity Livestock Co-op in support of you and saying like you had purchased $800,000 worth of animals from their co-op in the
Yes,
last
ma'am.
year. And so these are animals that you purchase at an auction barn and then bring here would bring here and then process them and then sell them to other places,
Yes, ma'am.
correct?
It's kind of awkward and funny. This is how things worked out. When the gentleman, Mr. William, was asking about this check, this USDA problem, they are the ones that actually, one from there, the one that called PNS, the Department of Agriculture, on this check that bounced. Well, now, I'm their number one of the number one buyers from them, and that's who they send that letter. Yes.
So, so when you're buying from them, like these vehicles that are coming in, we were talking about vehicles. So you have your local farmers coming in with maybe a steer or some goats or something that are coming in, but otherwise you have like livestock trailers coming from the auction barns, bringing in animals to be slaughtered on your property? And that's in this 30 vehicles that are coming in per week?
No, we're not slaughtering on the property now.
I'm saying project.
Oh, project, okay. So the way it works and the way I done, even with Jones Packing before, is our main traffic becomes.
My concern is what we'll be doing on this
On this
conditional use, not necessarily what happened, but what will be happening. You have a narrative you gave us that said there'll be 30 vehicles coming in. You talked about, you're buying from this place and then selling. I want to know for this conditional use, how
Okay.
this will work.
The way it will work is, I have my own livestock trailer, which I go to these places and I purchase this livestock and I bring it back. I also have a buyer that does the same thing, whether with my truck or his own truck. He goes out, buys the livestock, comes back maybe 3 times a week. That's what's happening now. He buys them, brings them in. Now, we take them from there to the slaughterhouses where we process them now. That's gonna stay the same.
And what slaughterhouses are you taking them to
Well,
now?
we work with stuff in Chicago. We also work with Midwest Savija and other slaughterhouses around. That's in Union, Illinois. That's one in Union, Illinois.
There's one in Union,
Yes,
Illinois that you
yes.
use.
There's other ones out west by Rockford, and there's other ones in Chicago that I also work with. So what we do is, I would say 2 livestock trucks will come weekly for me, 2 to 3 times a day, maybe 4 times, okay? And the idea is that if we have this whole plan worked out, they don't have to go nowhere else. They'll get processed in there. So that will be deducted from there. The only additional traffic that will come in will be our custom cut clients. So if you decide, or somebody decides to bring a steer, that will be the additional traffic. And that all depends how many we can allow to harvest, which we're saying minimum 12, 13, maximum 17. So that will be the additional traffic that I will see. And that'll bring the steer, drop it off, and leave. They might come back to get their meat, pick it up, and leave. That's how it kind of works for the custom.
And then you have a truck that's coming in at least once a day to pick up the waste products?
Yes, that has to be once a week.
You were saying one per day.
I'm sorry, once a day. The company that picks up the runner company, they pick up all the guts or skins or whatever leftovers. They will come there once a day. They normally come in the morning or will come in the afternoon when we're done with the workday. So that will come once a day.
And then you probably have supplies that'll be delivered and other types of vehicles that are becoming in the course of being a business owner?
I actually get my own supplies. So I have my 2 meat trucks that I use, my 3 meat trucks. The way I work now is, for example, if I need boxes, I deliver to Mr. Zaragoza, who's behind me, his load. And then from there, I go and pick up my boxes, bring them back. If I need to get my bags, I do the same thing. Because a lot of these suppliers are in the Chicago area. That's how I do it now.
And then you'll have 14 employees coming in every day?
It could go up to 14 employees, yes. We don't have that now, but it could go up to 14 employees, yes. And now, their house is sitting right there, it's also be used for example, the people that live there now, they work for me. So, they can, that would be something that we can subtract from that. Also, the rest
So
of the
your plan
employees.
is to have employees that work for you live there,
Yes.
like
Or something.
many or one family or?
Oh, no, whatever is capable. Right now, it's a family. Yeah. So it's a family, yeah.
But would you want to have more than that?
No, I wouldn't have more than
Just
that.
one family
Just one
living in
family,
there? So all the other employees would be driving
yeah.
in?
And actually, there are people, a lot of the people that work for me now are family members, and they all, what they do now, they carpool, so.
I have a question for you about, in the narrative, it says the animal pens will be 2,000 square feet. The overall building is 8,974 square feet. And those animal pens, is there a requirement by USDA or any requirement about how crowded those pens can be inside the facility before they're slaughtered? Are these pens that are inside the building, like where the animals are housed before they're slaughtered?
Okay, you want to answer that question, Dave? I'm sorry. I'm mistaken. You want to answer?
Well, you're the operative
Okay.
business, I would think you should know.
Oh, I know, but I also, the way it's built, those animal pens are built to give them a proper, safe, steady before they get sacrificed. So they have to have water, they have to have enough room for them to be fat.
Is there a standard of that, how many square feet you need per animal in those pens?
Yeah, there is, yeah.
So how many animals can be held in those pens at one time?
Well, depends on the size and depends what kind of animal. I mean, if you're talking a 20 by 20 pen, you can pin in there 15, 20 baby goats or baby lambs, probably a little more, probably a little less. As long as they reach feed and water, they're safe, yes.
So the amount of animals you can slaughter is based on the requirement that you have to have a certain amount of square feet in each of those pens. There's some kind of a standard. And-
Yes.
Okay, okay. Let's see. As far as demand for your type of business, as far as locally, you were talking about, and you sent several letters about, like, from 4-H kids and for local people that maybe are raising a steer or two that want to, or pigs or whatever that want to get slaughtered. Would you say that there's a great demand for that kind of a business in the county?
I think it is, yes. 4-H, it's right now, and even when I had Jones Packing, it was so hard for people from 4-H or any local farmer to be scheduled at this other slaughterhouses at a point. So I think it'll be a demand. It is a demand, and it will be necessary to have a plant local to help a lot of these people because, I mean, they have to travel a couple hours to bring their steers or pigs or lambs or, and having one here, it'll help a lot of the farmers, yes. And I think it's especially in the 4-H because a lot of kids out there, I mean, yeah, most of them, they have their plants already. Most of them already they've been doing this for many years, but there's new people coming in, there's new kids, and even these people that have been there for years, I worked with them in the past, and they were pretty happy that I took over Jones and that I was bringing them, helping them out with their 4-H animals, yes.
So I want to ask you at Jones Packing, so did you have animals there for several days before you would slaughter them?
Over there, my state inspector allowed me to keep some animals there for line them up. Yes, they did.
For more than 24 hours?
Yeah, they're for more than 24 hours, yeah.
I'm familiar with like Sword Packing or Lake Geneva Meats where they don't, you drive up to the door and your animal goes off and it's slaughtered. This greater than 24 hours is a totally new thing to me, and I don't understand why you say they have to rest. I mean, animals, my kids were in 4-H, had animals at the fair, and if something left, it went to the slaughterhouse, and there was no staying outside for several days. So I'm not familiar with this concept, and it confuses me. I'm confounded by it, actually. I don't understand that. So do you know of any other facility around here that has the animals are there over 24 hours?
Small facilities, yes. I know there's a few. They keep animals for more than 24 hours. They're USDA, and they're state inspected, I believe, USDA. I know some of them. In the state of Illinois, I know, not local in McHenry County, but in the state of Illinois, yes. This whole 24 hours deal.
But you understand in McHenry County, our ordinance is that you cannot have them over 24 hours.
Okay, within, yeah.
And you will comply with that.
Yeah, I want to make sure I understand this clearly. Is this within that slaughterhouse pens, animals you were talking about, or the rest of my pens? How would that work?
My understanding would be anything that has to do with conditional use. If you're raising animals for agriculture, that is separate from this conditional use. But if you're buying animals that are going to be slaughtered, that's part of the conditional use. That's not like raising a lamb to, for whatever, how long does it take to raise, for several months, and then you're going to slaughter it. To me, that's your farm use. Where conditional use is animals that are being brought to this property for slaughter. That's my interpretation.
So so that'll fall, I guess, yeah. If I have animals in there that I grow, I guess I can't have them more than 24 hours. That's what you're saying, my animals.
If it's for this conditional use, that would be my interpretation, because that is what our ordinance states.
Okay.
And are you willing to comply with that?
I don't think it's an issue for me. I can arrange that. I don't think it's a problem. If it's not gonna work, the fact that I raise my animals and I do crop in the back of the property, then it's not gonna work, then I will comply for it. That's not a problem.
Ms. Kustra, if I may address the board. Vincent Copero, attorney for Mr. and Mrs. Alage. I believe the nature of your question is, in light of H2, the requirement of the conditional use permit, that if this use were allowed, that Mr. Alage and Alage Farms would be prohibited from holding animals on site for more than 24 hours as it relates to the slaughtering of animals, right, for commercial use. You're asking, is he willing to, is he aware of that requirement, and is he able to comply with it? Is that correct?
I'm asking if he's willing to do that because he's saying he needs them to stay longer for the meat to change or whatever purpose. And I'm saying, are you willing to comply with this standard? Because that's what our ordinance states.
And so I believe earlier in the day, we heard testimony from Mr. Gillespie as it relates to cattle, and saying that cattle needed longer time to rest, I believe the word is. And the logic there being is because cattle that are slaughtered, that are not rested, become white. I don't have any knowledge of any slaughtering or any business. I'm just relying on testimony that was given under oath to the board. And so I believe that there was a little bit of a comprehension. I believe that Mr. Alage, in the testimony that he gave you or his responses, there was a miscommunication. And that his subjective understanding was that he did not feel that, to the extent that he was boarding or raising his own animals, that they were subject to that 24-hour requirement. And so I'm speaking to you just to try to help maybe use different words so that we could get a better understanding of Mr. Alage's subjective understanding of the ordinance as it relates to slaughter, and then individually for boarding within his own pens of his own livestock, if you will.
I think my question was pretty clear.
I think his answer was unclear. that's where I'm going.
Can I add something, Eduardo? Like, okay. Going back to what you told me about what you do with Source and Nature Geneva, bringing an animal from McHenry County Fair and dropping them off, and within 30 minutes, harvest that animal, that can also fall into unhumane for the state inspector. It could fall into it, because you're pressuring the animal, you're forcing them, you stressing the animal. The reason why we ask for this is because they need to unstress themselves. Okay, they get loaded. There's thousands of people walking by with these animals at the fairs, okay, or at the auctions, or wherever they're at. Even farmers, if they pick them up, if this animal's been in your farm for 20 years, or 10 years, 5 years, and then you decided to put it on your trailer, that animal's gonna get stressed. It's gonna get stressed. For better quality treatment for the animal, you need to give them rest. That's one. To make a quality meat, not only taste and color, you need to give them rest in order to sacrifice them.
My question to you is, are you willing to meet the standards of our ordinance that no animal is there for longer than 24 hours if it's coming to your place for slaughter? That is the standard in the ordinance, and are you willing to comply?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Anna, do you have any questions of the petitioner?
No questions at this time.
Before we take questions from members of the public, I think we're just going to take a 5-minute break if anyone needs to use the restroom.
Well, I recognize that question.
This is like
Sounds like she said she's just
I don't know.
sounds like something that's my boss. Why don't we until say, or do you want to go ahead and say,
we say we can table this discussion until we get clarification.
Whether you get a process or someplace else, that's a whole different road. That's separate. That is, and what she said at the end. Ones that are actually in are different. The ones that
Any other
It's the site for which additional use is provided for, not the entire property.
So they're thinking that all of these exemptions that somebody's dropping because how is that going to affect your house?
Oh my God.
have a seat, please? Just need the petitioner.
Even as I was coming.
If I may, Ms. Kuchar, petitioner just went to the washroom, and I believe Mr. Gillespie ran out to his car to grab some materials. And so I would ask just for perhaps maybe a brief 5-minute adjournment until.
Additional?
Yeah, additional, perhaps until, say, 10 to 4. And I apologize to hold everybody at.
Well, we can't go on without a petitioner, so
I'll
we'll
see
wait
if I
for the
can.
petitioner.
Does that have leave to excuse to just go fetch him? Sure. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to continue the hearing. I will, I see Mr. Kuda is here. Are you representing Heartland Township, sir?
That's correct.
Okay, are you the only, is there any other attorney in the room representing an entity? Okay, we're gonna let Mr. Kuda go first in asking questions. And our bylaws say 3 minutes per person, but because you are representing Heartland Township, we'll give you extra time.
Okay. Can you let me know when I'm on the clock? I did have pages of questions. I'd really like to commend the board. You've answered pretty much all the questions I have, so I don't think I'm going to take too long. I'd like to start off with just a couple of questions for Mr. Kuda.
First of all, so you need to give your name and.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's Steve Kuda, C-U-D-A, of law firm of Hamer, Shoe, and Kuda in Woodstock, Illinois. And I'm here representing Heartland Township. So, Mr. Glutz, I just have a couple questions for you. You indicated that the liquid waste would be contained in a rather large storage tank, and I believe emptied once a day. Is that correct?
Are you asking me?
You're Mr. Glipsy, right?
Gillespie, okay,
I'm
I
sorry.
said Olage, okay.
So
No,
anyway,
no, I
so-
didn't say once a day, I said a couple times a week.
Okay, a couple times, maybe Eduardo said, but is that the storage of the liquid waste, is that controlled by state rule or regulation or a federal rule or regulation, or is that just something that your client has decided to do?
No, we can't pollute the site, that's why it's put into a tank.
No, I understand it, but is that a state regulation or statute or a federal? What's causing that requirement?
The requirement would be caused by the McHenry County Health Department, which regulates on-site septic disposal.
Okay, so it's there.
We can't
That's
do a
fine. I
septic
just want to make
disposal.
sure that
Right.
that's just something, not something that your client said he would do. It's pursuant to a rule or regulation. And then you indicated during your testimony that the building would be approximately 9,000 square feet.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Can you tell us, Mr. Eduardo indicated that the facility would be open from 7 to 4, practically 5 days a week, so that, I figure, about 45 hours a week. How many, assuming you're slaughtering, let's say, sheep, how many sheep could be slaughtered at that facility during a 45-hour work week?
Ryan, the number will be 300 to 400, I would say.
So that's the maximum?
That's a round number. Maximum, I guess all depends on the staff and depends how fast we do it.
Okay, so when you stated at site plan review that you're slaughtering between 300 and 400 sheep, goats per week, that's not a maximum that we can anticipate that you would be slaughtering in the future.
I don't think it's gonna be more than 500.
Pardon?
I don't think it's gonna be more than 500.
Okay. And would you agree to a condition to your conditional use that would limit that to 500?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
are you operating a retail shop at this site?
no, I don't.
So you indicated that your representative indicated that you're producing steaks that we can all, grill on our Weber grill. How would I get one of your steaks?
Well, if you have a beef, you want me to process it for you, I'll get it done with.
If I have
A beef?
well, let's say I don't have a beef. I'm an attorney, I don't raise cattle, but I'd like to,
You wanna
Get
get
one
some
of your
steaks?
great
Then buy a
steaks.
quarter from me and I'll bring it to your house.
okay, so you're not selling to the public?
No, we're not.
Okay.
That's only, yeah.
Now, you talk about your custom slaughtering or custom food processing, and that's generally for folks here, maybe someone like myself. If I did happen to have a head of cattle, I could call you up and say, slaughter this for me, correct? That, would you say, and again, I just want clarification that the cattle or the animals that you slaughter that are from McHenry County are generally the custom jobs that you do?
The animals that I get from McHenry County are custom.
Right.
Not all of it.
Not all of them?
No.
Okay, so the 300 to 400 sheep that you may be slaughtering per week, the vast majority of those are from out of county, is that correct?
Yeah, they come out of, yes.
Like maybe all of them?
Not all of them.
Okay. Are you familiar with the USDA, National Agricultural Statistics Service? I'm just, if you're familiar with it.
I'm not.
Okay.
Can you explain to me?
Would it surprise you to learn that that's a office of the United States Department of Agriculture, and they run farm surveys every few years? They break it down by county. Would it surprise you to know that per the latest survey from 2022, there were only 539 sheep located in McHenry County? So I guess it's fair to say that there's not too many sheep that you're processing that are coming from McHenry County.
Well, I answered your question. I said I do slaughter, I do get animals from McHenry County, but you didn't ask me how many, but I don't know how many, but I do get them from McHenry County.
Okay. And it's my understanding that the trucks that come in, the cattle trucks that come in, some are coming in from as far away as maybe Kansas, Colorado.
Some of
the cattle trucks that are coming into your facility?
Yeah, they come from out of state, yeah.
Approximately how many per week come in from out of state?
Semi-trucks, I would say once a month.
Just one per month?
One semi-truck. When you say cattle trucks, you mean the semi-trucks or you mean a regular cattle truck, a cattle trailer?
Well, not cattle, I'm talking about of the 300 to 400 sheep or goats that you're anticipating slaughtering and processing, what's the percentage that will be coming from out of state?
Well, normally when I get out of state, and I mean farther out west, it's a big semi which carries 300 at a time. You know, when it's a local farmer who brings three beef in one trailer, you know.
Or I'm not concerned, I don't think any of us here are concerned about the 1 or 2 head of cattle that come in per week. I think we're all more concerned about the hundreds.
Mr. Kuda, could you speak up a little, please?
I think we're concerned about the hundreds of animals that come in per week and the source of those animals. And it sounds like, and again, if I misinterpreted your testimony incorrectly, I apologize, but from where we were sitting, it sounds like the majority of the livestock that you will be slaughtering and processing are not coming from McHenry County.
The majority are coming from out of the county, yes.
And I think there's been a lot of talk about the conditions here. I'm sure you understand that if your property was located or the proposal was located on either property that's zoned either I-1 or I-2, you wouldn't have to worry about those conditions.
Let me see if I understand that question correctly.
You understand that under our zoning, McHenry County zoning ordinance, that you would not have to go through the conditional use process if your business was located on property that was zoned I-1 or I-2. The only reason you're here today is because you're asking to put this facility on property that's zoned A1.
Right.
You understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you look at any, when you decided or determined that you cannot rebuild at your old site, did you look at any other properties that were zoned I-1 or I-2 in McHenry County?
Yeah, look at other places, other slaughterhouses, other places and other properties, yeah.
And can you tell us why none of those were conducive to your business?
They were not for sale.
Oh, they weren't for sale?
Slaughterhouses, no.
No, not a slaughter, but just a vacant, land zone I-1.
Well, I have a land now, so I never.
So you never looked at any other? Okay.
If I may, real fast, I think your question, I'm sorry, if I may address Mr. Kuda, Vincent Copero, counsel for Olegge Farms in Eduardo. Sir, I think your question supposes that the gentleman, his profession is that of a butcher. I don't know that he would have the knowledge, or anyone perhaps on the board would be looking for I parcels as your question proposes.
I don't know. I have a lot of clients that when they're looking to put up a new business somewhere, the first advice I give them is, you want to look in Woodstock, go talk to someone about their zoning ordinance. It's out in the county, go talk to staff up at P&D and see what, where it would work best. So
I think at the time the acquisition or the property was made, this wasn't in the lexicon of things. So I think your question is speculative as to future use.
Well, it's my question, and I believe he answered it. So, and I was a little bit confused on the discussion regarding the traffic study. Is the petitioner committed to conducting the traffic study or not?
Yes.
Okay, and when can we expect the traffic study?
That would be at the request of the board, I think would be.
Back here was very difficult to hear. Sure. So, and again, I apologize if the question was asked and answered, but we could not determine or could not hear that particular answer.
My involvement in this matter has been limited, short duration, like today only. So it's my understanding, based on the meetings, the record that I read, that at the last meeting in November, McHenry Data Transportation said a traffic study would be required to figure out right away if there needed to be a dedicated turn lane and just to determine total vehicular access into the parcel.
My experience when the McKinney County
Mr.
Transport.
Coda, if I may interrupt, we're going to have to continue this petition very shortly because the building closes in not too long. I'm going to request that by the continued date that a traffic study and a study indicating how much water they use be provided to the board.
Okay. You indicated at site plan review that you plan to be open from 7 to 4, and maybe a few additional hours during the holiday season. Would you be willing to put that in or allow that to be an additional condition of your conditional use? Let me just check with my client. I believe you testified that you didn't have any violations at your old facility. Is that correct?
I didn't say I didn't have any violations.
So did you, in April of 2021, were you the owner of the facility that you talked about, I believe, at the old Jones Packing facility?
Yes.
Do you recall being cited for the county for a malfunctioning septic system at that site?
Yeah, there was a failure with the septic.
Okay, but it was a citation for the business at the prior location, correct?
It was a failure of the septic, and it got arranged and taken care with the health department.
Okay. And then I believe approximately a year earlier, in 2020, do you recall entering into, I believe, a consent decree with the United States Department of Agriculture for alleged violations of the Packers and Stockyards Act?
That's what you answered, and I answered that question.
And again, we really did not hear,
Okay.
so I apologize if you answered that question.
There was yes.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all I have. Thank you very much.
As was mentioned, this building is going to close at 4:30, so that we are going to have to continue this hearing to a new date. Mr. Eldridge, you had something you wanted to put on the record?
I would like to request on the record that at the continued date, that a traffic study as requested by the Department of Division of Transportation be provided, and that a study that gives us information as to the amount of water expected to be used by the slaughtering operation. I'm not concerned about the water usage at the residence or for the dozen employees. It's simply the water usage for the slaughtering operation be provided to the board.
And Mr. Eldridge, just as a Vincent Copero, counsel for Olagi Farms, Eduardo and Claudia Olagi, as a point of clarification, the water use study, would you accept that from a sanitarian or a local well company? Or I just wonder who would we be looking to as an authoritative source?
Well, I'd like somebody who has some familiarity with slaughterhouses.
Like locally, like I think Rayburn Associates. Perhaps some of you guys use them in your own residences. There's an abundance of well companies where I hired. Would that be
Yes,
sufficient?
whether they have, they feel they are competent to tell us how much a slaughterhouse of this size would use, I don't know.
Okay.
But I would like somebody who can represent that they are expert sufficient to tell us what a slaughterhouse of this size would use. And it doesn't have to get to the last gallon. It would be nice if it were accurate within 10 to 15%.
And Madam Chair.
Yes,
For the record, I'm Anna Kurtzman, Senior Planner. So the traffic study that McDuff was referencing, the way that the county usually handles this is that a use is established in terms of a conditional use permit. So the county board says yes to a conditional use permit, and then the permits are applied for. So the study that they are referencing would be for their permit. I know that their permitting process takes months to go through. So just keep that in mind as you
Yes.
consider this, okay?
We're not looking for anything that formal. We're looking for a competent engineer, traffic engineer, to give us a report of a reasonable estimate
Okay.
for the use of this facility as projected.
Thank you, okay.
So you're all good with that?
Just want to make certain the board understood what the normal process is and what you were asking for. I think it's up to the applicant now to determine how they need to come up with those studies and suggest a rough ballpark, and then this board can decide when to actually conduct the continuation of this hearing.
So based on those requirements, you know, we'll need direction from you as to when we should continue this hearing to. Will you need 1 month, 2 months in order to accomplish that?
Does the board, Ms. Kustra, Vincent Copero, counsel for Olallie Farms and Olallie, does the board have dates? Is it a rolling monthly basis? Can we look to a date perhaps in March?
Sure.
What are the calendar dates do you have at the moment?
We have everything open in March.
Specific.
It has to be on a Thursday.
Every
afternoon.
Thursday,
Every
at
Thursday.
1:30. At
Okay.
1:30.
If I may look at my calendar.
I do, first Thursday.
And if the applicant is providing additional testimony, I would request that you provide it to staff at least a full week before the hearing, so that there's adequate time to post it and to give it to the board.
Did you hear that?
I did, with that being the caveat to.
How much do they want to see?
Can you repeat that again, Andrew?
I'm sorry, on the 20th.
I said that whatever additional information you
Weekly
folks
time.
want to provide, I'm asking that it be provided to staff, to myself, at least a week before whatever scheduled hearing date, so that I have time to post it so the public can see it and give it to the zoning board so they can see it. Okay?
Mindful of those constraints, I would ask if the board would entertain an April 10th date.
Oh, no.
April?
April? Well, that's 60 days plus. Okay, March. I gotta say March, okay.
March.
Who's gonna build your plans? Who's gonna build your plans?
And then keep in mind,
That'll be a
board,
question we gotta
that
talk
whatever
to.
date we set,
Yeah,
all of you need to be
builders.
present for that.
And I could not be.
How about March 27th? So with submissions by March 20th, the hearing on the continued hearing on the 27th.
March 27th. Will all the current board members that are here be available on March 27th?
March 27th, yes.
Mine's at home.
Okay, so everybody's here okay with it?
I will.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that a 1:30 time?
Yes.
March
So
27th.
this hearing will be continued to March 27th at 1:30 PM in this very same room.
Will there be microphones then?
Unfortunately,
Is there a
no.
reason why there aren't?
I've been informed from our IT department that they are not available.
But they need to be in this building?
Who do we need to go to for the county to let them know that they definitely need microphones in this room?
Yes.
I would call your county board member.
I mean, this is the second meeting we've been to in a couple of weeks, and we're sitting up in the front because I hate to think about the people in the back. I mean, I can't believe that the county, with all the money they spend, they haven't put microphones into this room already. I mean, it's a farce for a county board.
Yes, sir.
Is there a way we can provide testimony to you guys if we can't make the next meeting?
So yes, you certainly may submit anything in writing. You can submit it to me. I believe I have my business card here. If not, I'll write it down for you, okay?
Okay, then at this time, we will continue this meeting to March 27th at 1:30 PM.